Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future.
The importance of infra-safety in India has been emphasized as a foundation for building a safer and more sustainable future. In line with this vision, Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future was hosted to bring together industry leaders, experts and policymakers. The proceedings began with an opening address by Rajshekhar Reddy, Vice President of Marketing at Polycab, who underscored the critical role of electrical safety in driving India's infrastructure and economic development.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly inspiring to see such a varied personalities here today. So let me set the context for tonight's conclave. We are calling it aptly as InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future. Every day we come across various media reports wherein we see electrical mishaps happening across the country. Let me also share some statistics, and the statistics are alarming. I am quoting a report from NCRB, which is the National Crime Records Bureau. It states that around 35 fatalities occur daily due to fire incidents, with approximately 20% of these are caused by electricity. Additionally, CEA, which is the Central Electricity Association, they recorded over 10,000 electrical accidents in FY 2020. Almost 55% are attributed to electrical installations. So there's no doubt in saying that electrical safety is a topic that we need to discuss and discuss more and more. So it's imperative to raise awareness on electrical safety with the consumers. So as part of this conclave, we would be traveling across various cities of India. The idea is to spark conversations with various stakeholders across the country. And we need to see how we increase the safety quotient in our infrastructure. We are confident that with this initiative, which is supposed to reach to millions of people through CNBC-TV18, it will play a pivotal role in educating and empowering consumers.
This was followed by a compelling keynote address by Rajiv R.A., former Metropolitan Commissioner of MMRDA and Director at Urban World Consulting. His insights on urban infrastructure and electrical safety offered a forward-thinking perspective on the challenges and opportunities in shaping the future of India's cities.
The first thing which comes to my mind when I read about the infra-safety is that as such, we lack the safety culture in this country. It's not only the policymakers or the government, but at the same time, the industry, which is rightly talking about, Polycab is talking about training electricians, but as well as the consumers, the developers, the government, everybody should have to come together and think about this safety culture. How many houses in the kitchen do you have a small fire extinguisher available? No, ladies are sitting here. Why have you not asked that question? That if there is some freaking fire accident in the kitchen, you should be able to douse the fire yourself by using a small fire extinguisher. Why can't we have that in every family, every house? I think the electrical industry representative like Polycab who's sitting here, it should be their role also to argue on these lines that we need to define certain standards in this regard at different levels, be it the commercial, be it the industrial, or be it the residential levels. As we power India's electrical future, let safety be our guiding principle, a principle that illuminates not just our cities, but our collective vision for a brighter, safe tomorrow. Thank you so much.
The first panel discussion, titled Fortifying Mumbai's Skyline, Enhancing Electrical Fire Safety in High-Rise Buildings, was moderated by CNBC-TV18's Mangalam Malu. Panelists explored key challenges in ensuring safety in high-rise constructions and shared actionable solutions for mitigating electrical fire risks.
When it comes to fire standards, where does India stand when it's compared to, say, some of the other developed countries? Because if we're looking at India as a developed country, all our standards, especially fire safety standards, should also be at par.
When we are talking about the standard, nobody is talking about the standards. But whenever we are talking about US, UK, there are some regulations, there are some laws that the people have to follow, whether it is the fire alarm system, whether it is water sprinkler, whether it is emergency exit, whether it is a training, whether it is awareness, whether everything. If anybody will bypass these systems, they are resulting into a big penalty. So in India, we are still, maybe I will say this is becoming a Viksit Bharat, but I will say it should be the Surakshit Bharat. I think this is the area we should focus. That is why we just join hands with the CNBC to make more awareness with such kind of events, and we can speak more how we can make this India as a Surakshit Bharat.
Let's go to the deputy CFO. Typically in CNBC, when we have a CFO join, it's the chief financial officer, but in this case, it is the chief fire officer. And thank you so much for your services to all of us citizens, sir. But in your experience on ground, what do you think would be the top 2 or 3 reasons why fire incidents occur? What has your understanding been?
So as I was discussing over there, that during the construction period, there are 2 measures. One is passive and one is active. So during the construction phase, we are recommending some measures, and the buildings are constructed as per the recommendations. But then later, these things are not maintained properly. We buy the property of worth of crores of rupees. We, along with our near and dear ones, stay over there. We spend crores for the flat, but we don't like to spend a few thousand rupees for the safety of our near and dear ones, for the maintenance of the things. We lack it because our mentality is not like that. We think सब चलता है. Fire कहाँ हुआ है? Where the fire has happened? इतने साल से हमारे building में तो नहीं हुआ है. So these are the things which is lacking in our society.
Before we move on, I'd like to just do an audience exercise. How many of y'all in the audience fly regularly? Raise your hands, show of hands. Quite a few of y'all. How many of y'all get scared when there is turbulence on the flight? Almost everyone who flies gets scared where there's turbulence on the flight. The statistical probability of you dying by fire in a building is a lot higher than the statistical probability of you dying on an air crash. Despite that, you get scared out there, but in your house, where you are more likely to die by fire, we're not scared. That's exactly what, the point that he's making out here. So, Dr. Hiranandani, I have to come to you on this one. From a real estate developer standpoint, what are the measures, what are the best measures or good practices that industry is taking? And at the same time, how is the industry putting that in the front as against the profits that they're making?
I think I'm glad that Polycab and you are actually working to educate the people. So first and foremost, when I buy a house, I should know what's the capacity of equipment that I can possibly use. Number 2. Second, when you repair anything in the house, whether it's wiring or otherwise, they just splice the wire any place and anywhere that is likely to do. Sometimes even in the main ducts, the electricals make, an electrician will come. Today there's a problem. They will splice the wire. They will connect the thing. And in the duct, you cannot have that kind of a joint. Simple thing which any common person, you don't even need to be a great electrician to understand that. We don't have skill sets or certified people who will look at the electrical jobs that we are actually wanting to do. I think it's just that we are not told. When you talked about the plane, where you say about it, every time I travel by plane, he tells me about it. But once in 10 years also, no person comes and tells me that my electrical thing is not correct. Education, knowledge disposition, not only regulation, but also the fact that the common man should be told what is it that he needs to learn. So educate the people like you're doing today, and probably multiply this by various means that we can do. And skill sets of electrical people, I think, is important.
Ashish, the question then is, now that the gaps are identified, how do, experts like you, consultants, design consultants like you, address these gaps and also ensure that these are followed? Because from a consultant standpoint, you can go ahead and give your report, but to ensure that they are followed, how do you go about doing that?
The codes and standards related to fire are one of the most stringent in India. You can compare it with the NFPA, you can compare it with anywhere else. They are prepared by the fire officer, they're prepared by the industry. The National Building Code is a classic example of what we have. There are enough regulations available. We as consultants go out and specify the protection right from the point where the power is being received, where the city supplies the power, down to the last point. A simple example would be a earth leakage circuit breaker, ELCB. The equipment that we are using are also carry a certification. A much bigger issue that we are yet to address here is who's installing it and who's testing it and who's coming and redoing it. When our installer itself is an uneducated, uncertified professional, what are you going to do with all these certified equipment? We are so much enamored by an insulation tape that anywhere we cut the wire and put the insulation tape. There are connectors supposed to be used. So specifying is one thing. The bigger gap is out there in the field in terms of who's installing it, who's maintaining it, and who's retesting it after a point of time. The codes, standard, cover it amply. The implementation is the issue that we are here.
We're in this dynamic world. How do developers like you prepare for all of these things? What are the challenges that you foresee from where you are at right now? Because you're obviously at the forefront, you can see things that not everyone else can. And how do you prepare from that from now itself?
Whatever is currently your expectations of the need of equipment in the next 10 to 20 years, we can anticipate, but we can't anticipate beyond that. So when we do this, we give them all the fire standards which are the best. Number two, people in India do not believe that quality is essential. They think quality is expensive. Actually, quality is cheaper. In the case of cables, electrical equipment, and other things, if we don't look at quality as the first norm, then we are going to be in trouble sooner or later. So whether it's a developer using it, or whether it's a person carrying out interiors or repairs or further things like commercial offices that are constantly renovated, I think we need to have those norms understood and done and executed. That's why we need good people who can give us guidance relating to what are the standards that are necessary for each type of equipment.
20% of things that people are doing wrong, that is causing 80% of the problems. What would you suggest? How do they, fix those, or what are those 20% problems that they need to fix?
I have been in this construction industry for 32 years, designing buildings. I've seen a lot in terms of fire, in terms of issues. Your weakest link is the point of failure. Your weakest link here is the person who's doing the work. The installer is where the weakest link lies. A simple thing that can change the entire construction industry is, henceforth, everybody will use a certified professional who's installed. Call him a professional who's installing your electrical systems, your carpentry, your plumbing. That's all you need out there.
Right, so with that, we will now give the responsibility to you guys. Go ahead, ensure that you will not shortchange yourselves and, put your lives at risk just for a few extra rupees. Just be very sure, very careful, and be aware, because fire safety is, pretty proportionate to the safety of your own life, which we don't understand because of the low probability of such events. While they are low probability, they are high mortality. So just understand that risk reward that you're taking. That's all we have from this panel.
Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future. Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future.
Welcome back to Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future. After the insightful keynotes and discussions, the focus shifted to an engaging fireside chat titled Safety First, Strengthening the Electrical Backbone of Construction. In this session, Bhushan Sahani and Mangalam Malu explored the critical importance of robust electrical systems in ensuring the safety, efficiency, and long-term resilience of India's rapidly evolving infrastructure.
These things that you've seen in your life are the ones that triggered this thought of fire safety, or is there more? Because, this is, it is quite something to, think about but it is also commendable that you're putting time, effort, monies behind this.
I will say, as off to our chairman, to the family and all, they never talk about the expenses and all. In this year and from last 1.5 years, we are doing things which are totally out of the league. We are not doing anything which is the traditional and all. I will say availability, advocacy. Nowadays, we are talking with the specifiers, please come on the board. We have 150,000 electricians. We are training them. I will say 10% and 15% will come on the board. I am the happiest person.
Let's talk a little about what else inspires you outside of Polycab. Are there any companies around the world and in India which give you a sense of inspiration that these are some of the practices that we should implement in Polycab as well to make it a further more world-class institution than what it is right now?
If we compare India with the companies, with the countries which is already on the maturity level of such UK and US, there are the standards. We have also these standards, but subjectively, how formally we people are adopting. We have to change the culture. We have to change the jugaad system. We have to change the adaptability. We don't want to be a supplier, I said. We want to be the solution provider in the such way that if anybody is buying Polycab, he should have a peace of mind.
Thank you so much. This is a great conversation that we've had.
The conversation continued with a second panel discussion, which highlighted the vital role of cabling solutions in enhancing both fire safety and the performance of modern buildings. Moderated by Gautam Srinivasan, this session delved into emerging trends, regulatory frameworks, and innovative technologies transforming Mumbai's real estate landscape.
Bharat, we'll start with you, especially when we look at the cabling industry in general. Now, for an average person in the audience, the first question obviously is going to be, all right, as we start this discussion, what are the features that we should be looking at when it comes to cabling solutions, choosing cabling solutions for high-rise buildings? So how about we start this discussion with the basics? Your thoughts on this?
See, as far as cables and wires, it's actually some part of it is very basic. When you look at two different cables or two different wires or two different brands, you don't know what exactly is the difference because they look the same. The beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, right? So there are experts who actually understand that difference. And if you see two things in a cable or a wire, it's effectively metals and plastics. And metals and plastics, if put in the same form, will look the same. So what could be the criteria in terms of selection of a better product? First is awareness about the company. And as we sometimes call these products commodities, right? So over a period of time, many of these products get termed as commodities. And at the same time, we talk about safety. Something that keeps you safe cannot be a commodity, right? It's very important to your life. I think we should, again, have a wave of learning about what are the changes in the electrical conductor properties and the polymers properties, and use that as a basis of selection.
Coming to you, Pankaj, when we look at optimizing cabling solutions for safety, especially in projects with large footfalls, whether we are talking malls or hospitals or office building, what are the sort of the approaches which are going to take center stage versus, say, a residential home? So what are the priorities that need to be looked at?
Cabling, whether it is power or networking or it is communication cabling, today has attained very important, I would say, status in building, and that is area which all of us in the consultants fraternity are looking at it very carefully. And this could lead to many disasters. We all understand that. it is very important to understand the importance given to all these aspects, and that's how we'll make our buildings much safer.
Dr. Chaudhary, your thoughts on this, especially when we look at cabling solutions for projects with large footfalls versus, say, residential home projects? What are going to be the key differences, and what can be the similarities to improve outcomes around safety and optimization when it comes to large versus small projects?
Safety-wise, there should be no compromise. When even if it is a single dwelling or it's a mall space or any commercial space where the large footfall is there. Large footfall spaces need to be covered with so many things like CCTV, access, fire things are there. So many more cablings are there. And we know that the majority of the fire occurs because of the short circuiting or that because of the cable heatings or XYZ reasons. So when we are designing the large spaces, the different care from the single dwelling has to be taken care.
Nimish, your thoughts on this? What needs to be, what are the differences in terms of these large versus small projects when it comes to cabling solutions that we should focus on?
The difference between a mall or a large commercial establishment and a single use or a residential building, safety-wise would be there are much higher risks that a high load situation will involve. A mall would have hundreds of restaurants today, hundreds of shops, catering to large electrical loads. And these loads are running simultaneously. In a residential building, loads are there. They are designed for those particular loads. The cables are sized for the higher loads, the cable sizing would be different. For lower loads, again, cable sizing would be different. But the risk involved in a larger setup will be higher. The care which needs to be taken, the safety measures that need to be taken in a bigger setup are much stringent. So these things have to be taken into account while designing and while installing these, cables or these systems.
Sun, to bring you in the real estate markets, there's builders, developers, suppliers, contractors, everyone. So we need everyone sort of on board. So in terms of the developer perspective of realizing the benefits of advanced cabling solutions, what would you have to say?
See, things have been changed now. I mean, we are not taking redevelopment or any new construction very lighter now, in terms of safety. Because safety is the key focus where everything comes in mind. We as a professional engineer, we as a head of the departments, we always focusing now on quality. We know if we are talking about 150%, then it will reach to 90% or 95%. So focus of any project, when you monetize the project, we first talk about the safety, then you talk about the quality, and then you talk about the speed. Cost comes definitely fourth. Things have changed now. There is one perception, cost always comes in picture. It definitely comes. But after safety and quality, for sure.
On that note, thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for participating.
The event concluded with an acknowledgement of the invaluable contributions made by all the speakers, panelists, and delegates. Gratitude was extended to everyone who participated in this remarkable initiative, making it a resounding success.
Polycab and CNBC-TV18 present InfraSafety, powering India's electrical future.